Caviar. Right. And we're shown that we should want these things, right? Excellent. Okay. So that's that quadrant. Packed with all kinds of consumer goods that we are lured to. All right? So that's great. That's the first piece of it. Now, number 2 is quantity and unsustainable ideals.
Really bad.
All right. This person, just down the steps, seems so close, but it's amazing what happens when quantity becomes the overriding influence in decisions. Quality is not necessarily relevant for this person. This represents not only moderate income folks or the poor who are trying to find the cheapest calories or whatever and the highest volume possible, but the middle class guy who just wants a burger most days for lunch. Fast food is a great example of this style of product. What are some other brands or things in that category?
The Tea Party.
Some other brands in that category.
Anything imported from China.
China, yeah. All right. McDonald's. You can go through all the fast food chains, right?
Yeah.
All those sorts of things. Dollar General might be a place we can consider that. All right. That might be a place where these things go. So in the next quadrant over, coming here, we have Nina, and of course, Nina's number 3. The lucky number 3. I love number 3 because it's a transition. It's sustainable and quantity. It's a transition stage. So we see sustainability become a factor in some of the decisions that we make. The person's thinking about the 3 E's before, which are ethical, economic, ecological. Someone just got 100 on the quiz. People might start to consider where food or other products come from, how far they were shipped, what workers were paid, or thinking about their lifestyle's impacts. They are, however, still stuck on stuff. They might want a big house for family visits twice a year, or those crazy parties once in a while.
Stuck on stuff.
Or just for nostalgia.
Oh,
Perhaps they still fly tens of thousands of miles a year, like me. This is the conscious consumer, but still wanting quantity. What are some things that might fit into this zone?
Natural gas.
Yes.
I beg your pardon.
I got so much more than I had bargained for. I started this activity, I have no idea. I like my X and Y axis.
Hybrid vehicles.
Hybrid vehicles.
Oh,
Yes. CSAs. Yes.
Co-ops.
Co-ops. These are things that are enlightened and moving in the right direction. Consignment stores. Yeah.
Shoes.
People? For sure. And so that's part of it. Now, at the top, we have number 4. You are considered enlightened and a demigod.
Remember that.
Okay, not quite. But the 4th and final person is sustainable quality, and that is their focus. This is an ideal balance. Here we have someone who considers gently the things that they touch or do or create or get involved with in some way. And we're all, I hope, in our life starting to move in that direction. It's something that naturally happens a lot of times. But I want to, first off, if you'll do me a favor, those of you guys who have numbers, if you'll put them at your feet, and make your little tent. So I kind of folded it and sort of made it into a tent, but I don't know if it's going to stand up or not. Let's see.
Oops.
Okay, we got some things standing. Perfect. And now thank my volunteers. You guys were amazing. I got so much more than I bargained for.
No PowerPoints. Yeah.
Human PowerPoints. That's my next book. What do you really get from this kind of conversation? I think it's really important that we take a little time and think about some of the ways that these remnants of these quadrants that were up here before sort of lay before you now. And I want to finish this talk with just a few examples, shifting from one to the other. This is one question that I get a lot. I hear, what does one person do to change from one to the other? How does that happen? Well, going from 1 to 2, or moving down, that happens. We see people become wealthy through education and hard work. We see different groups of people moving in that direction. Sorry, from 2 to 1, actually is what I meant to say. So going from 2 to 1, we see that happening with people who work really hard and become wealthy and lured into the things that are commercially focused on us. And we're humans, so of course we like to have nice things. But moving left to right is something else. Moving from 2 to 3 might be a normal occurrence of someone who continues to get educated about their choices. These are folks who start to fill the whole food markets around the country and other places like it. They go to farmers markets, or they might become a small organic farmer after getting frustrated with a 9-to-5 corporate job. So that person basically has moved from a place where they were just consuming things, which is quadrant 2, down and over to quadrant 3. And that's an interesting choice, and I think a lot of us in this room and a lot of people who are becoming more and more socially aware about things are starting to move in that direction. From 1 to 3, so moving from here down to there, is an infrequent occurrence, unless you're the lotto winner who squanders their fortune, but reads Omnivore's Dilemma as their last hot rod is being repoed. But what about the magic quadrant 4? How do we get to sustainable and quality? There are forces that pull people between these different things. There's time, there's money, there's status. What are some of the other things that move people between these different quadrants? Relationships. Education. Marriage might take us from one place to the other. Yeah.
Unitarian Universalist.
Those of us who can. What else?
Location. Help where you live.
Yep, location. Could have some.
Religion.
Religion.
Grandchildren.
Grandchildren. Our upbringing.
Even moving from one place to another.
Yeah.
Pollution.
Pollution. There might be things in the environment that cause us to stop doing certain things that we did before. Or that make us do things that we didn't do before. Like Seattle, which has an amazing environment for everyone wants to get outside, everyone wants to hike everywhere. And I know that happens here in July and August a lot. Legislation and laws.
Forcing people to do something.
Definitely.
Growing up and growing older.
Yes.
That's a big
That's it.
Or just growing old.
From the maturity of our audience, I will assume most of you guys are in 4. That's an option, perhaps, that we're moving toward. But it's not necessarily something that everyone strives to. And I don't know what to think about that, because I believe in people making their own choices. I think that's really important, because we're all on our paths here, and we're influenced by things. So for me, there are forces that pull us between these. We talked about them. Honestly, it is a simple answer of listening. Listening to these talks, reading articles about sustainability, listening to nature. Because when it's quiet like that, we all start to hear. That's it for my conversation. Do you guys have questions? And then I have a couple of closing remarks that I'd like to make. Any Q&A? I love the Q&A part. Yeah.
How do you do that in Beaufort?
How do you do what?
Find the logical thing, you know. I don't know where stuff comes from at the farmer's market even, if I go there.
Right. Well, you just start to look into things. You know, you start to listen to the farmers, ask them questions. You know, you really start to talk to people, drill into things that are happening around you, and have that conversation. Yes?
Can it be the free space?
What's that?
Can he be the free space? The one in the middle?
Free space?
Yeah.
Like
the one in the
what?
very middle.
Yeah?
Yeah, can he be that person?
Could you be an Olm, you mean?
Yeah.
I think we are, at some points in our choices, right? I don't think we stick statically to any of these particular quadrants. I think that we're fluid in our life and in the choices that we make. There's some people who live off the grid and who are perhaps in a solar home, and they've paid the carbon price for that solar, so they paid a little extra money because they knew that the true cost of their solar panels isn't the price that they paid. So they add a little extra in there so that that money can go to research to create something more sustainable. Those are called offsets. So some people do those sorts of things. Yes?
I think I know you mentioned relationships and how important it is. What I've been finding as we've been traveling and moving around and doing different things in different places is the more I know the people I'm doing business with, even if they're brand new people, I'm talking to them and having the time to start a relationship. I feel more confident about the goods that I'm buying. And I feel better about finding more interesting food, and part of that has to do with health needs and stuff, but
Sure.
it makes it more interesting, and it makes it more, it brings it down to local wherever we are.
Sure. Absolutely. Yep. One more.
I want to advocate for the moving toward number 4 with a group choice or group choices. Those of us who are in this room are a very special community, and we have some choices awaiting us on what we do with our property and what kinds of choices we make with future construction and everything that happens here. We can educate ourselves a little bit more, be very thoughtful in our choices, and make a real difference with what we do with our property.
Absolutely. Wow. All right, I'll do, hopefully these are rapid fire questions. Yes.
Oh, mine is, as a young professional and someone who doesn't have much time or money, it's very hard to make that shift when you'd like to have a garden, you'd like to bike to work, but you can't because you work 2 jobs and you're trying the best you can. Is there any sort of advice, or is that more of a cultural ill that we have in America versus maybe another country that's not so maybe capitalistic or determined to make that money and
Right. I think what you're hitting on is a really important point, which is we sometimes in America like to strive for more and more and more versus seeing that the quality that we have might be more important than the quantity that we might want to have. You know what I mean? So sometimes the quality is something that takes more thought and energy and planning and consideration and meditation or whatever you might choose to do, going out on a fishing boat and and taking the time to really be with yourself and ask these questions of yourself while you're out there fishing or while you're out there doing whatever you want to do to be outside. Yeah.
There's one other layer of this that really, to me, is how we decide to elect people to office, how we advocate for the kind of policy change that was mentioned earlier. Because lots of times it seems to me we work very hard on individual choices, but don't realize that there are also needs for boundaries or ground rules or something that can kind of hold us all in from being up there in Keith's corner.
There is another quadrant too, but there's another axis which shoots up and goes down. But that can be any number of things. That can be anything from time and how we treat time to other cultural implications, other cultural choices that we make.